You have already seen this video. Somebody in a linen shirt folds a sweater into a drawer, tells you to thank your possessions for their service, and it ends on a shot of an empty room with one plant in the corner. If you have had enough of that to last a lifetime, I understand completely. Go ahead and click away. But almost nobody covers the part that actually explains it because it isn't a philosophy and it doesn't flatter anybody. Japanese homes feel calm because Japan never had anywhere to put the problem, not virtue, square footage. So tonight, I want to walk you through 10 things you will not find in an ordinary Japanese house. We start at the front door and we end with the one that took me 30 years in this country to understand. That last one is the reason the other 9 don't work on their own. Everyone here calls me Ken. My mother still calls me Kenichi. I was 12 when we moved here. I have now lived in the United States for longer than I lived in Japan, which means I am not the right person to romanticize it for you. I own a house in the suburbs. I have a garage. There is a drawer in my kitchen right now that I could not describe to you under oath. So, this is not a video about how one country got it right. It's a video about a difference I couldn't see until I had lived on both sides of it long enough to stop noticing either one. The first time I walked into an American friend's house, in the winter of my 7th grade year, I remember standing in the entryway with my shoes on, my coat on, in the warm air, and feeling like something had gone wrong. I couldn't have told you what. It took me about 20 years to work it out. Let's start where I was standing. A Japanese house has a feature that American houses do not have a word for. It's called the genkin. It's the entryway, and it sits lower than the rest of the house. You step down into it from the street, and then you step up into the home. That step is the whole thing. Outside is on one level, home is on another. You take your shoes off in the low part and you leave them there, and the floor you walk on for the rest of the evening has never touched a sidewalk. Americans hear this and think it's a cleanliness rule, and then they get slightly defensive about it, which I understand. But it was never really about dirt. It's a hinge. There is a physical moment repeated every single day where the day ends and the house begins. Your body performs it, you bend down, you change your footwear, 6 seconds, maybe 10. Here you come in through the garage while still on a work call, and the day just follows you inside and sits down next to you on the couch. Nothing marks the border, so there isn't one. American homes are organized by function, and every function gets its own square footage. There is a dining room for eating, there is a living room for living, whatever that means. And then in a lot of houses, there is a second living room, the formal one, with the good furniture that nobody has ever sat in. I want you to actually count it in your house. How many rooms are being used right now, not owned, used today? In the house I grew up in, the biggest room was the dining room in the evening, the living room after that, and my parents' bedroom at night. Same room. It changed jobs 3 times a day. When guests came, it became the guest room by the simple act of getting the futon out of the closet. The room worked all day. It did not sit there dressed up and empty, waiting for a version of your life that hasn't arrived yet. And here is the uncomfortable part. A formal living room isn't storage for furniture, it's storage for an idea of yourself. Somebody who entertains, somebody who hosts. You're heating it, cleaning it, paying a mortgage on it, and it exists to hold a picture of a person you meant to become. There is no bed in that room, which is why it can do 3 jobs. The futon comes out of a closet at night and goes back into the closet in the morning. That's it. That's the entire technology. Now, I will be honest with you because I promised I would be. I sleep in a bed. I have slept in a bed for 30 years, and I am not going back. Folding your bedding at 6 in the morning in January is not a spiritual practice. It's a chore, and my mother did it every day for 20 years without ever once describing it as mindful. But look at what the chore buys. A bed is the single largest object most Americans own, and it does one thing for 8 hours in a room that is therefore useless for the other 16. We call that room the master bedroom, and we make it enormous. Then we shut the door on it all day. The Japanese house doesn't have more space. It just refuses to let space specialize. The traditional Japanese house is built out of posts and beams, which means most of the interior walls aren't holding anything up. they slide. Paper panels in wooden frames running in tracks. So the house changes shape. Two small rooms become one large room for a funeral or a new year. One large room becomes two small ones when a child needs privacy. Nobody calls a contractor. Nobody takes out a loan. You just move the wall. Think about how permanent your floor plan feels. Somebody drew it before you existed, and you have arranged your entire family life around a decision made by a stranger with a budget. If your life changes, the house can't. So you adapt to the house and you buy furniture to solve problems the walls created. A house that can change shape is a house that never becomes a museum of who you were when you bought it. This is where I stopped being a good ambassador. Most Japanese homes, even now, don't have central heating. You heat the room you're in, there's a low table with a heater underneath and a heavy blanket around the edge, and you put your legs under it and you stay there. And the hallway outside that room is genuinely seriously cold. Americans here heat the person, not the house, and find it very wise. It is also freezing. I have walked down a hallway in my mother's house in February and seen my own breath. When I moved here and discovered that the entire building could just be warm, all of it, all the time, I thought it was the most decadent thing I had ever experienced. I still do, but something happens in a house where only one room is warm. Everyone ends up in it. My family ate, argued, did homework, and watched television with our legs under the same table because the alternative was the cold. We were not close because we were wise. We were close because the house made it expensive to be alone. Your house doesn't make it expensive to be alone. Every room is warm, every room has a screen, and everybody is comfortable in separate rooms all evening. I would still take the central heating. I just want you to know what it costs. Japanese rooms are not measured in square feet, they're measured in mats. A tatami mat is roughly the size of one adult lying down. So a room is 6 mats, or 8 mats, or 4.5. When my parents talked about a room, they said a number of bodies. The average new American single family home is somewhere north of 2,000 square feet. That number means nothing to your body. You cannot feel it. It's an abstraction printed on a listing, and it exists to be compared to other people's numbers. 6 mats you can feel. 6 mats is 6 people lying down. It's a room described in terms of what can happen in it. Once a house is measured in an abstraction, the abstraction is what you optimize. So we buy more of it than we can furnish, more than we can heat, and more than we can fill with anything except the objects we bought to fill it. Walk into a traditional room, and there is often one alcove holding a single scroll, one arrangement, and nothing else. The rest of the wall is empty. First time visitors assume something is missing or that the family is poor. There's a word for that emptiness: ma. The space between things is not the absence of design, it is the design. You already understand this, by the way. It's the rest between two notes. Nobody thinks the silence in a piece of music is a mistake or that the composer ran out of material. Take the rests out, and you don't get more music, you get noise. An American wall is treated as unfinished inventory. Empty means you haven't gotten to it yet. So it fills up with gallery walls and floating shelves and a sign in cursive telling you what to do in this room. And every one of those objects is quietly asking your eyes for a second of attention all day, forever. One empty wall will do more for a room than 10 things hung on it. Now, before you go home and throw everything away, I need to give you the other half because Americans always get this half wrong. Japan is not a disposable culture. There's a word my grandmother used constantly, mate nai, which is the feeling you get when something is wasted that still had life in it. She said it about food, about paper, about the water from the bath. It is close to physical pain. She would have been appalled by a garbage bag of usable objects going to the curb in the name of tranquility. So the question was never, do I throw this out? It was, should this have come in? And that includes gifts. Somebody gives you something, and if you don't want it, you're now storing an object you don't like in a house you're paying for out of loyalty to a person who has probably forgotten they gave it to you. Here is the way I was taught to think about it, and it took me a long time to accept. The gift already worked. It did its job in the moment it was handed to you. The affection was in the giving, and it stayed there. It did not move into the ceramic. You are allowed to keep the moment and let the object go. Say thank you to it, if that helps. Somebody else is going to actually use it, and my grandmother would tell you that's the opposite of waste. There are more self storage facilities in the United States than there are McDonald's, Starbucks, and Subway locations combined. Sit with that for a second. It is an entire national industry on prime commercial land built for the sole purpose of housing objects that nobody is using. People pay rent on those units every month for years, and a lot of them could not give you a complete inventory of what's inside. Japan has almost nothing comparable at that scale, not because of discipline, because there is nowhere to put it and it would cost a fortune. And this is the mechanism underneath every single thing I have told you tonight. It is not that Japan chose restraint, it's that Japan never had the option to defer the decision. In a small house, an object you don't need makes itself known immediately. It's in the way. You deal with it this week. America solved that problem brilliantly by inventing somewhere to put it: the garage, the basement, the attic, the spare room. And when those fill up, a metal room across town. But the decision doesn't disappear when you store it. It just stops being visible and starts collecting interest. Which brings me to the last one, and the reason the other nine don't work on their own. You can take your shoes off at the door, you can clear a wall, you can cancel the storage unit, and in about 6 months, the drawer will be full again. Because the drawer was never really about the objects. Almost nothing in that box is being kept because it's useful. It's being kept because of what it's attached to. The hoodie from a person who isn't in your life anymore. A phone with photographs on it you have never once gone back to look at. A child's drawing, and the child is 31 now. You pick it up, and you're not holding a thing, you're standing in a year. There's a phrase for this feeling, and it doesn't translate cleanly: mono no aware. The closest I can get is a gentle ache at the fact that everything passes, and the understanding that the passing is exactly what makes it worth anything at all. A cherry blossom that lasted all year would be landscaping. So, Japanese culture is not unsentimental, it's sentimental in a different direction. You are supposed to feel it fully and then let it go, because the letting go is not a betrayal of the thing, it's the last part of loving it. And here is what I actually believe after 30 years and two countries: we don't keep the box because we need what's in it. We keep it because we're afraid that if the object goes, the year goes with it. It doesn't. My mother's house is on the other side of an ocean, and I have not stood in that entryway in a long time, and I can still feel the step down into the Jenken under my foot. The memory was never in the box, it was never in the cupboard, or the garage, or the unit on the edge of town. It was in you the whole time, and it has been paying rent it doesn't owe. So don't clean your house this weekend. That's too big, you won't do it. And I'd rather you actually did something. Open one drawer, pick up one object, ask two questions. If I didn't already own this, would I buy it again today? And does this give me any peace at all, or does it only give me guilt and a vague plan to deal with it later? You'll know. You've known about most of these objects for years. If you made it this far, leave one word in the comments. Just done. And then tell me what the object was, not the whole list. The first one: